on more of a good style campaign, obviously I'm not going to pull something that's lawful evil or anything like that out. I might pull something neutral out at the worst, but nothing evil or typically nothing chaotic either.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I don't. I've played in a few evil campaigns in the past, which were a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
Kind of even
yeah,
the party out some.
yeah. Um, which is hard. I mean, sometimes because if odds are you're not going to have all the same like class of characters
Mm-hmm.
unless the campaign is built that way. Like we have a group that's almost all clerics, but the campaign is based on clerics. But
Which makes
usually,
sense.
if you people tend to pick different things, anyways.
Yeah, you see, I used to do that. I used to look at the group composition and pick what we didn't have, but I got tired of getting stuck in the same classes or not getting to pick what I ultimately wanted. So I started saying, "Screw it," and building what I want. It will add a very different dynamic to the party too. If you are, say, weak on clerics or some kind of healers, but you have a lot of just melee face beating damage, you have to kind of pick and choose your playstyle, and it forces everybody else to change the way they play too, or die a lot.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm back. Sorry it took me so long to get back in here.
Welcome
No
back,
problem.
No worries.
Welcome back.
Hello, hello. So having only chosen 2 characters, and one was kind of done for me, the second character that I chose, I did because I just thought it was a little badass. But I mean, definitely considering my personality, what I think I'm sort of capable range-wise of playing. I don't think, for instance, I could do a very skilled fighter. I think I'd have to either be a bard or just sort of a rage fighter, simply because of my range. My personal range is limited when it comes to the game.
I
Yeah.
think you could play it like a Samantha.
I could, but it's even hard for me to play the bard because there's so many spells and stuff I have to remember, and that's a little challenging for me because I kind of just want to get into the game and interact, and I have to continually go back to my sheet and figure out, oh right, I know this spell or I know that spell. It's easier if I have weapons or tools. Spells are a little hard for me right now.
Yeah, I made a character for our Friday game,
Mm-hmm.
and the new character, and it was my first one ever making on my own, and it's a sorcerer. But I've actually started thinking, it's going to be quite hard for me to remember spells and stuff like that, and I'm having a little bit of a second thought, maybe thinking of fine tuning it to be a different class, possibly, just until I get a little bit better at learning how to play characters that have spells.
Well, here's a recommendation I have because I haven't played a whole lot of ranged characters. I played a sorcerer in a fifth ed game a little while back. What I did was I would pick one thing I wanted to be really good at. Is okay. We had a wizard and a sorcerer. He wanted to do a lot of AOE stuff. I wanted to be that one guy that said, "That guy over there, I'm going to kill that guy," and leave it at that. So I picked a lot of very offensive spells that were focused on a single character, not a lot of utility. So you didn't have to worry about, well, can I do this or this or this? You just had to worry about, okay, who do I want to kill?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I have memory issues though, so I don't even know if I'm gonna remember like what type of spells I've used and how many spell slots, and I'm not sure.
That's why I keep track of them on the character sheet.
Yeah, I'm always fiddling with a character sheet because
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't have fun because I'd have to be remembering what I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have actually they're like playing card size cards that
Oh, yeah.
have the name of the spell and what the
Spell decks.
spell. Yeah, it's a spell deck, and so then you could just pick out. Okay, I have this one, this one, this one, this one, and then you have the cards right in front of you in your hand. Of course, it's an option. You could always go the easier way and just on a piece of paper write the name of the spell and just a short little attack spell or something. However you want to set it up to make it easier for you to remember. These are the spells that I have.
Well, that's a good idea.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're new, I mean, I always say start with something like a ranger, a paladin, or a bard. Because
I'd even put your basic fighter on that list too.
Well, there's a lot of reverb going on. Does anybody else hear that? Like echo?
Yeah, I did.
There's quite a bit of echo going on.
Yeah. If you want to go towards spell casting, I would say those are like the 3 to start with.
Oh yeah.
They have less spells to choose from, really.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about maybe changing, keeping the race and sort of the basic storyline to my character and changing it to something I'm actually enjoying a lot more, like a rogue.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how I'd be able to do that. Is there a way to do that without making it without ruining the character?
To do what again?
To change the class of my character.
Well, I've went through and tried to do like a multi-class is what they call it, and do partially. I did bard and druid, and really you miss out on some really good stuff depending on when you change classes.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, it's up to you, but you'd have to go through each class and look to see where do I get this benefit or this ability, and is it worth it to change to try and get another ability from another class?
Oh, actually, I meant just completely wiping off sorcerer and turning it into a rogue.
Then your best bet would be to come up with a really killer story as to why the sorcerer's going away and roll a brand new rogue and see if your DM will let you do it.
Actually, I haven't introduced the sorcerer yet. I'm just saying, would it change? Like, would it be weird to keep the race and sort of some of her backstory to go along with it? Because I kind of liked where she was going.
No, I don't think it would be.
Yeah, you haven't played this character, right?
No.
Oh, okay. So you just scrap that character and make a different character.
All right. Yeah, I might just do that. I was just curious because, I mean, I did like her as a character, but I'm not ready to play a sorcerer just yet.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you can adapt that story for that character, being a rogue, you're just making a different character.
Yeah.
Played it yet, anyways.
Or you could just piss off the DM and get killed, right? And then just do a brand new thing.
Oh man, like Torog, he was so ready to be killed. Oh, Tom's character wanted to be killed bad. Gillian.
Right. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't played that character, you could take that background, the whole story, and just make a rogue rather than the sorcerer, because you haven't even played that character yet.
Right. Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna do then.
Yeah,
that makes me happy.
I've done that where I've thought, oh, okay, I want to make this type, this class of character. Started writing the background, went, you know what, it fits better with this class, and just made it a different class,
Yeah. You know what actually might even be good is I might just keep her completely made as a character and just start again with a rogue and make a new character for that, because I think her alone, she was a good story. I'm not ready for her.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not ready and you don't think you're going to have fun with it, make a different character that you're going to enjoy. And sometimes they start to grow on you once you start playing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love her as a character. I'm not ready to do the sorcerer spells and all that stuff just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say I am having trouble with the spells because they're fairly complicated, and you can't just pick them up like you can a sword, right? You know what to do with a sword. but you don't necessarily know what to do with a spell. And you might pick one up, but then you still have to learn it. So you have to figure out time to learn it.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, as anybody knows, I can't always be completely focused perfectly during a game. So I don't think I'm quite ready for a sorcerer.
And that's the thing, though, is you can incorporate that into sorcery. I had a wizard. It wasn't my wizard. It was in another game I was playing. But this guy had serious ADD. Middle of combat, and he'd see something he wanted to go look at. He wanted to learn everything he could, and he'd just wander off from combat.
I could make an Alzheimer's. That would about
Right.
fit my personality.
That would work.
Yeah. Like a
Yeah.
typo. What's your character doing over there? I don't know.
Wandering around.
Right? She just zaps a spell at a wall. Oh, jeez.
And see, and it's those little things in the character concept of making a character that make characters really interesting. Is their flaws and their little things that they do that make the game more interesting.
Yeah, it's very true. I have learned that the character's personality, like their quirks, like sometimes their bad quirks even, are what makes them funny and interesting to play and to watch.
Yeah, because playing those super characters that are good at everything and don't have any flaws are just boring.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
And that reminds me of something that I like to do. A lot of times I'll come up with a character concept before I even do anything else. I won't come up with the class. I'll come up with the race. Figure out a backstory I really and build that up, and then read through
Yeah.
the class that fit
Yeah. Because, and actually, I think picking out some weird flaws or something, an odd quirk, like Tom, you're one character that always went left. You know, I think finding something like that and starting from there is a fun idea, also.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just weird things like that can really make the game that much more interesting, you know. Like the, barbarian who's not, has low intelligence, is pretty, I mean, everybody does it.
Yeah.
But a fun character that I have, or had, has a low intelligence, but his charisma is super high. And just trying to play him as he says stupid things, he doesn't talk very much. When he does, usually the wrong thing. But people tend to like him for it,
Right.
And it was a fun character to play.
That actually reminds me of, was it Keith, I believe, that we were talking to that was talking about making a character that didn't speak common?
Right.
And so basically, we would have to figure out what the character was talking about through grunts and stuff,
Yeah.
which I thought was
wow.
absolutely nuts. But it sounds hilarious. Could you imagine trying to communicate with this character?
It would be even better if it was a character that was supposed to be intelligent, like a wizard or a sorcerer or something.
Right,
Right.
trying
He's
to
learned so much
communicate.
stuff, he brain dumped common to learn other stuff.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. To me, those are the things that really bring out a character. But like you were saying, Dustin, character that's great at everything. That actually, I mean, it just, in my opinion, it kind of destroys the game.
It does. Like right now, I have a barbarian in a game that I'm playing with some friends, and he's surprisingly very, very intelligent. He rivals the wizard in his intelligence right now. He doesn't act like it though. He acts dumber than a brick. He tells people his name's Stump because that's where they found him tied to.
That's funny. Chuwu here said a good character to try would be an Eldritch Knight or a Paladin to basically learn to be a spellcaster and be able to run in and still swing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody play a Paladin yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
neither
I
have
don't
I. Yeah.
because I've only been in Friday's game and your Monday's game, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I've never. What is a paladin?
So a paladin is a, I guess the easiest way to say is a religious fighter.
Oh,
Somewhere
okay, that
between
makes
a
sense.
cleric and a barbarian, or a cleric and a fighter.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that would be a sort of a good getting your feet wet type of character
yeah,
for
because they have
spellcasting.
very limited spells, but they do have some spells. Um,
And there are a
so,
lot of healing spells, or a lot of very useful spells too.
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice. I actually do enjoy being a healer in a party. That's cool. What's an Eldritch Knight? I don't know if I'm saying that right or not.
yeah. Eldritch Knight is a fighter that uses some magic to enhance their fighting ability.
They're kind of like a paladin, but instead of using divine spells, they use other spells.
Oh, okay.
So, and again, with limited amount of spells, it's not like you know, you don't have full list like a wizard or sorcerer or warlock.
So it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah, so it's not as many spells to remember.
I think that's a really great idea. And actually, I might do that when instead of like going straight into the sorcerer, I might start off with like a paladin or an eldritch knight.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, Chubu also talking about war clerics.
yeah. So war cleric. So when you choose a cleric, you get to choose a domain, and there's a couple different kinds, and one of them is a war cleric, which is more of a fighter type cleric,
Hmm.
which is good.
That's
I mean, you
interesting,
still
but
have,
it's an interesting mix.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't usually see clerics going in like a fighter, like a warrior.
It depends on your group. I've seen a few groups where they do that, where they're right there next to the barbarian or the fighters.
Ah, that's interesting. So they do they do actual like melee fighting, or is it?
Oh yeah,
Oh
usually
yeah.
with a big mace or a warhammer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hmm. That sounds pretty brutal for a cleric, but that's pretty awesome.
Well, they're a healer that can wear, if you spec them right, can wear heavy plate and everything else. So, and they go in with a shield. You can beat on them all you want, and
Is
oftentimes they'll survive.
is their armor class really good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, somebody here, Coach Fat Jesus.
That's Ethan.
Oh, Ethan. Hey, you.
Yeah, that's Ethan.
How should I do my half elf ranger? Level two dueling wielding and gonna be beastmaster. Oh, go beastmaster. So is this
Um,
ranger's gonna be a beastmaster? Yeah.
correct. That's what is it? Your archetype. As a ranger, you get to choose either hunter or beastmaster, um, and kind of go from there with your character. You get different, abilities and
Do
things.
they actually get an animal to like Aoife's character had?
Exactly. Yeah. So a
Oh, okay.
beastmaster, they get a, um, I think it's a quarter or lower challenge rating beast that will, travel alongside them. I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. How should I do it? But
Well, depends on what it is.
Ethan, what do you mean? How should you do it?
how
I'm
should I
hoping Drew doesn't
use
screw me
my
on a companion.
ranger? Um, so dual wielding. At second level, you get to choose a fighting style as a ranger: archery, defense, dueling, or two-weapon fighting. Um, so dueling, I mean, you get bonus to
Oh,
damage.
be right back. 1 second.
All right. You get bonus damage as dueling, but a beastmaster is you have your companion. It's my first tune, just trying to get a feel on how to play my tune. So obviously, as a Beastmaster, you'd be an animal lover, I would assume. And I mean, some of the benefits aren't as much as you would think, because when you attack, unless you have 2 attacks, your beast can't attack, because they take up one of your actions when they attack. So keep that in mind.
So what's a tune?
Character.
Character.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're a video person, they call them tunes. Yeah, it annoys me too, because I'm old school and they've always been characters to me. But
Yeah.
but tune is same thing as a character.
Okay, so tune is a character, and monsters are non-characters, right? They're the things that try to kill you.
Usually.
Creatures, right?
Creatures or monsters. Okay.
Yeah, and then or NPCs, which is anything that's not a character, basically.
And usually what isn't trying to kill you. Usually.
Right. So that's a good point for some new players, as far as monsters are trying to kill you. Not always. So sometimes you might want to be careful what you're attacking.
And sometimes the NPCs are the ones trying to kill you.
Right? So he asked, would it be better to be archery or Beastmaster, or I'm sorry, archery and Beastmaster instead of dual weapons as a Beastmaster? I would say, I mean, my opinion, if I was going to go Beastmaster, I would go archery. Have your animal go up and attack, and you can stand back. But that's my opinion.
And my opinion is there really isn't a one that's better than another. It's how do you want to play it. You can't just spec out the best spec. D&D doesn't work that way, really. I mean, you could build something for high damage, but you don't roll right, and it's not going to do any good.
Yeah, like I roll. I'm a bard elf in the Friday night game, and I continually roll low for perception. For any of the skills that I'm supposed to have, I continually roll low, right? So that's why I say I'm the most ineffective elf ever. All I can do is sing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to max out your character, in my opinion, you're going about it the wrong way. Make a character that you're going to enjoy playing, one that you think will be fun. And if it gets some high scores, great. If it doesn't, you're still going to have fun playing that character.
Yeah. Make the character that you will be sad when the DM kills it.
Oh, well then Joe needs to not be making characters. We need to make them for him.
Right?
No, Joe can keep making his own characters. I still have plans for his tail.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with D&D, and I'm not going to mention the name of video games, but video games that are based on the D&D concept. It's not about maxing out when you're playing D&D tabletop. It's about having a character that you enjoy playing, and that you want to play. It's a group game, and therefore you don't need to be a god. You just need to work with the team and play as a team and have a good time.
You know, I didn't like my bard elf at first, but then the interactions between the players actually, I mean, I just sort of brought stuff to the character that wasn't written, that made it a lot more fun. Like, for instance, the bard, it wasn't written that the bard elf was bisexual, right? But that kind of made the game a little more fun. It wasn't written that the bard elf was completely incompetent, but that made the game more fun, you know?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, building your character, it's going to change throughout the game, or it should, as you interact with the other characters. Just like in real life, you interact with other people, and you change over time. Well, so should your character.
Your character evolves and develops a personality sometimes completely different than what you originally anticipated.
Here's a question that I had. Do you guys play almost exclusively in character, or do you do what we do on Friday night, which is have a lot of metagaming in chatter?
It really depends on the game I'm playing and who I'm playing with. I try to keep the metagaming down to a minimum myself. And even if it's something that I know about metagame-wise, a lot of times if it's something my character won't know, I completely disregard it. And I'll do what my character would do, not what I know I should do.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I always try and think, does my character know this, or do I just know this? And as you get more experience and you play longer, you start to know more about the game. For example, I DM, so I know a lot of the monsters. I've either seen them playing or I've used them as a DM. So I know that, oh, this monster is immune to this. Kind of like if you remember the night that Typo went away from the shadows that we were fighting. I knew that fire damage wasn't they're resistant to it. But my character had never seen them before, so I casted it like 4 or 5 times because he wouldn't have known.
Right.
So I try and think of, well, do I know this or does my character? And then a lot of times if you're unsure, you can always say, would my character, ask your DM, would my character know this? And they would be able to tell you no or yes.
Or cast a wisdom roll.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is. But as far as your question, like staying in character a lot more, it really depends on the group. I mean, you're going to have some groups that do a really good job of staying in character. They do it all the time. And some are hardly ever in character.
My experience has been the most common ones are the people that aren't in character that often.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
So what are we talking about?
Whether or not you stay in character the whole time, because there are nights that I've tried to stay in character, and it's almost impossible for me because I have to comment on everything. So I may be in another room and I'm like, poke the baby. Right?
Now I've said things out of character to try to put ideas in other people's brains for their characters to do. But I'm a terrible instigator, and I like to try to get other players killed. So
I think it would help. It helps to say, okay, we'll add a character, and then you go on and say, well, you should do this, or or something like that, or add a character. Do I even know about this hallway here?
That's what's nice about Roll20 is that you can chat while you're talking.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can send the DM just a private message if you have a question without letting everybody else know. Or
Yeah.
Or something like, hey, can we kill off Joe's character?
well, that's always a yes. That's
right. That's always a yes. Why do I even ask?
That was such a good one.
That really was. And the fact that we went to try to skin him alive, I don't know whose idea that was, but that was hilarious.
Oh, that was me.
Not skin him alive, skin him. Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to get the tea bag of holding.
Nice.
Oh, that's another question I had. So how racy do games get? Because I'm sort of reading a little bit about the different games that are going on, and some of them seem kind of racy, and ours is a little, but mostly in jest, not really dirty.
I was told it's up to the DM and the group's prerogative. Some run like extremely detailed, almost X-rated going on, and some are, PG-13 type, you know,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the party is what I was told.
Yeah, that really does depend. I haven't been in too many that were too racy, but that's not saying it can't happen.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think it really depends on your group. How bad or good it should get, I guess. Really, I mean, yeah, it just boils down to the DM and the group. I know we've played some tabletops that have gotten way, way, way out of hand. But these are people that I've known for years, So it just depends on the group that you're in, honestly.
When you make characters, because Tom, I know you play a lot of them, do you tend to choose the same type of character more often than not, or do you try to vary?
I guess I probably lean more to the same kind of character in personality per se. But as far as like class or race, I try to play a different variety. But I guess my favorite is Rogue, and I probably play that the most.
I'm finding that's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And
Why
I
do you-
just actually made my first rogue in Doc's campaign not too long ago.
Why do you like Rogue? Why do you guys like Rogue?
Oh my god, so many reasons. One is I found that the best part about for me is you can do a sneak attack, you get extra damage, and then you can disengage and hide right next to the person you're fighting. They can't see you or hit you. And then till your next turn, then you can go in and attack again, pull back again, and hide just 5 feet away. And they're just like, don't know where that came from. All right. And they're attacking all the rest of the party, but you're still just, hey, hidden back here.
Hey, just hanging out.
Yeah.
I currently have a love affair with barbarians and sorcerers. Barbarians because in one campaign I'm level 5 and I'm running 64 hit points or something like that.
Wow.
You get me down to half health and the rest of the party's dead and I'm still standing there.
That's awesome. That's a barbarian, you said?
That's a barbarian. They get a D12 for hit dice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the only class that does. And sorcerers, especially in 5th edition, you have a feat called Spell Sniper. Well, if you make an attack roll for any attack spell, your range is doubled, so you can end somebody from the next town over if you really want to, and they can't hide from you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Keith just joined us. Hey, Keith, how's it going?
Going pretty good now that I got my internet working.
Hey, there you are, Keith.
Yay!
Yeah.
So I want to jump back to Tommy. You had mentioned about how racy things should get, and I think it's Lorena says in the chat here, sex scene or getting it on with the barmaid fades to black when he or she accepts. No details. So I was in a very uncomfortable group that I didn't really know all of the players. I knew the DM, and they got into some really detailed roleplay sex scene that I was even kind of like, okay, I'm done with this.
Oh, wow.
But you could, you can always use kind of like that in your group if you were running a group. Okay, yeah, you went and did your thing with the barmaid, and let's move on. So, I guess it really comes down to the group you're with again.
And that's kind of what we've done in Friday night is, we say so and so have paired up, and we get a little detailed if it's important to the storyline, like Lady Ashford fell asleep on Samantha once. But other than that, there aren't really many details.
Yeah, we tend to gloss over it pretty much when it comes to the sex scenes.
And I think
Yeah.
most groups do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. The group that I mentioned was that was an exception to the rule because I've never ever had any other group that's even come close to that. So
I think most groups don't want to get bogged down with unimportant porn.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unimportant porn, as opposed
Yeah,
to
right.
very important porn.
Well, you get
If
porn in
it's pertinent
almost
to the story.
Right.
you get porn in almost everyday life. This is D&D is a few hour thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And especially, and I don't know, maybe it would have been better in a mixed group, but I think in the most part, in a mixed group of males and females, probably not a great thing to sit there and go into detail about. Let's just get on with the game. Oh, phrasing.
Yes,
But-
I'm sure some of the guys would quite enjoy getting into the details, though. But
So I've got a question, Tom.
yes,
All right.
And I'm a little late to the show tonight, so if this has already been asked and answered, just let me know and I'll ignore it.
No
Uh,
problem.
A lot of people have problems with characters that metagame, and basically they're trying to get an advantage on either furthering the story or something like that. But on the flip side, how do you handle a player character that concentrates on the most unimportant things and has no intention of doing anything to further the story?
I mean, you just got to try and keep focusing them. If you're talking from a DEM standpoint,
Yeah.
you just got to try and refocus them. A lot of times, if the group is lagging around in a place, one of the best ways to get them to move is throw a few monsters at them.
Yeah, I've noticed that happens.
it
Oh,
does
wow.
work. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually that will get the group to start moving. If you hang out in one place too long and you start getting attacked, they tend to get the idea that maybe we shouldn't just hang out here.
Yeah.
Right, but
Or-
even past that, like you'll ask everybody what they're doing, and you have those people that are doing productive things, and then you have just the one person that's doing literally nothing. Do you eventually just stop focusing on him, and if he has something that he wants to do, you let him do it?
Oh yeah. I would say if you have a character or a player, I should say, that doesn't seem like they want to be involved too much.
Right.
I mean, I will try and get them involved and try again. But if it's not working and they're just along for the ride, then I'll focus on the player that wants to be involved. Some people, they don't want to be in the spotlight, so they kind of just hang back. And if that's what they're looking for, or I'll even after game, one-on-one, ask that person, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to just hang back, or do you want to get involved? And if so, let's work on something that works for your character to get you involved.
Right.
Um,
One of the people in chat said that they had a guy that wanted to break into each individual house in an abandoned town and loot.
yeah. To
Here's-
avoid that kind of. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there's an easy way to do that. You let them break into a couple and then put something big and nasty in one of them.
Right.
Yeah. There's always ways around things, you know what I mean? As far as if you have a guy like that, yeah, either put something really big and nasty in there, so he'll learn his lesson, or say, okay, so while you go do that, what is the rest of the party going to do? And then just let him be in the background doing those things. And, nope, you don't find anything. Nope, you don't find anything. Nope, you don't find anything.
Right.
Eventually, give up. Or at least hopefully.
Or if they don't, put a mimic disguise as a chest in one.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good one.
Sowing the seeds of distrust.
Yeah. I mean, as a DM, it's, you're going to run into things that you're like, oh, all right, how do I deal with this? And you're going to try different things, to see what works best.
So what advice would you give for the complete noob, somebody who's never ever played a game before?
So, for my suggestion, is they have this new thing called the internet. And they have lots of games that are played live or recorded, on there, that you can just watch a game. And although playing a game is much more interesting, at least you can learn a lot from just watching others play.
That's what I did when I first got started. Like, I had watched a couple of the Bros and Dragons games, and as far as actually playing my character, I already kind of knew how to do things. My only problem was actually figuring out how to roll up a character.
I came into this as a complete virgin.
Yeah,
First
same
night
here.
game was like, holy moly.
Yeah, same here. And once we started going, I mean, there were a couple of people who'd played a few games before, and then Doc, who's a great DM, just sort of led us through things with leading questions and stuff like that. So that made it a much easier transition into a game. And then once we got into it, we just got into it, right? After, how many have we done now? 5, 6?
I don't even remember.
that.
Yeah, and I play with Tom's group too, which is nice. So I get a variety, different DMs this way, and I've learned that they both play very differently, which is
Right.
interesting.
Or the groups.
Yeah, the group dynamics are totally different
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
And there can be times you'll have the exact same players, but 2 different campaigns, and even the group dynamic can be completely different then, too.
Yeah, or if they have a different character they're playing. It's funny to see somebody play one character and then go to the next, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
And
What
unless,
if-
of course, then you always move away.
It's night and day between my barbarian and any of my other characters. Most of my other characters are pretty smart, and my barbarian is dumb as a box of rocks.
What about NPCs, the non-playing characters? Do you tend to have a lot of them? Or is it hard to manage?
Well, it depends on the storyline. From a DM point of view, you have to keep track of all the players and everything else that's going on in the world, But sometimes you can run into a ton of them. Sometimes you may not run into hardly any of them. It really depends on the campaign that you're in. But yeah, it is sometimes a lot to keep track of. As the DM running the campaign, everything in your campaign you're dealing with. So.
How do you manage it? How do you manage an NPC? Do you sort of write the character or the storyline for them?
Yeah. So basically, you're going to have NPCs that eventually the party is going to run into that you weren't expecting them to be anything more than there's a guy standing over against the wall, half asleep. And inevitably, the party's going to go over there and want to chat him up. And so you didn't plan for that, so you just have to make it up as you go. But then there's main NPCs that the party is going to talk to, or they need to talk to this guy. So usually you'll have that pre-written of who he is, why he's there, what he's going to say, his attitude. But like I say, a lot of times they run into somebody that you didn't really figure was going to be anything, and you just have to make it up as you go.
That reminds me of Pia. What was it, General or Sergeant Pia? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
he was trying to think of. He didn't even have a name for it, and he's like, "How did you even say that?" He said something P or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah, it
remember
ended up being
that, but
Pia.
yeah, ended up being Pia for the guy's name.
Yeah, just on the fly, all of a sudden, he was like, "Oh, and they're like, Pia, yeah, okay."
Sorry, I was just reading, trying to keep up with the chat over here, see if I missed a question or not.
Nope, we're pretty much caught up as it is.
Cool.
So I've noticed that each DM has their own type of play, but two of the main ones I've seen is a story that's mostly player driven, like our Wednesday group, where we just started and we were told that we had to do this, and to find out where this thing is or who we got to go see is stuff that we found out ourselves. If we had
Right.
never went and talked to this one person, that story would have been completely washed.
Right.
But like the story that I'm doing right now, it's a story.
Somebody's
and
breathing into the thing
DM
pretty heavy.
Yeah, I hear that.
That's probably me. I'm always heavy breathing into the mic. Sorry.
It's okay.
I was trying
So-
to figure out if Keith was in a windstorm or something.
So it's like there's a DM driven story and a player driven story.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, Doc's Friday game is very DM oriented. He's got a main concept, and I think our
Right.
Monday is more us. Like we sort of decided we're gonna go see this Jinthyra. Remember?
Yeah, exactly. And Doc's his is off of a book, The Curse of Strahd.
Right. Yeah. So he's sticking mainly to that storyline. Where our Monday group, we're kind of going all over the place. We're like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
hey,
mean,
let's find
we
some job to do.
started-
Okay.
We literally had no goal. First thing that happened is we saw these shadows going into a hole in the ground. We went down into the hole, eventually made our way to a underground dwarven city, and then
Fought some giants stupidly.
from there I talked to some people and got a job to hunt down this character Jinthyra, and that's led us all over the country.
Yeah. So I think it does. You're very correct, though. There is the DM, one and the character one. Where,
Yeah.
what'd you call it? Led.
Char-
Character led. Yeah.
Character driven, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the group on Friday, The Curse of Strahd, so that's written by D&D Wizards of the Coast. Whereas you guys are talking about the Monday group is what they call a homebrew world, that I and then Doc and some other players and you guys are building that world as we go.
Oh.
So
Okay.
that's all based on what you guys do. So I had an outline of a story, but it's all based on what you guys do and who you run into and where we go. And it's just basically, yeah, it's based on the reaction of the players.
I didn't even know that was happening. It's so funny. And as soon as you said it, all of a sudden it all made sense.
Why you guys were just sort of wandering around?
Right. Well, I figured. I don't know. I thought we had a main goal, but we just kind of decided as we were going, we're also gonna go get this Jinthyra. I'm half there half the time, I guess.
Yeah, so
And then you've got the one that I'm doing, which is kind of in the middle. It's a homebrew, but it's a DM driven story.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you can have a total straight outline of where you want the group to go,
Yep.
And that would be more DM driven. It keeps the party narrow to where they need to go. Whereas, like I said, on the Monday group, I've kind of just opened it up, and I will react to what the players do.
Right. So for new DMs, what is it easier to do, player driven or DM story driven?
DM story driven.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion.
That's what I think too.
I would say I would agree with all that.
Yeah.
Well, you have to make up a whole lot less. You have to actually, you can always go back and look at the book or look at the information. Whereas, character driven, you have to kind of figure it out as you go, and
Yeah,
I would think it'd be a lot
even if you
harder.
build your own campaign, even if you don't read one out of a book, it's a whole lot easier to try to keep people on that path than have to think on the fly as to what they're going to do next and anticipate between 3 and 5 different individuals and what they may do.
Mhm.
If you ever want to
So-
see chaos, just ask a bunch of characters to do what they want to do.
So to give you an idea, so when we first started playing, and when I say we, Doc and a whole bunch of other players, a bunch of our friends, we started, I DM'd, I made this homebrew world, and we had, I think at the most at one point, 9 players. So to try and figure out what are they going to do, what are the possibilities that they're going to do, I would try and come up with as many possibilities I could think of what they would do, and somehow they always found the one thing I didn't think about.
Right?
You're like, okay, you could go this way, this way, this way, and they're like, I'm gonna fly.
It's like herding cats.
So you have those people that will have a character, but they're still kind of playing themselves, and then you have the people that actually play their character like that character would be played. And Doc is a really good example of this because he actually plays the character. So
Right.
if you have a character that's gonna just do all kinds of crazy things, it makes it a little more difficult to predict.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I found that when I was first starting, it was very, very hard to play a character that is completely separate from how I would act in normal life.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm like overly nice about things. So to play somebody that's kind of like, yeah, whatever, it was ridiculously hard for me. And I kept thinking, no, shoot, would my character do this? No, they wouldn't. No, but I want to.
Right.
It's really hard for me.
And that's something a lot of new players struggle with, actually.
Yeah.
What I usually recommend is play a character that's similar to who you are or who you really want to be, not the public face you put on, and it makes it a little bit easier and makes transition into later characters a lot easier if they're way different than your personality is.
Yeah, I'm just really bad at all this. I'm learning though. Like I'm learning how to be a rogue that actually does things that I would never even consider ever, which is fun, but it's hard. And Doc used to, like, when I first started out, he'd go, okay, now would Samantha do this, or is that what Typo would do? And I was like, crap,
Right.
that's a Typo thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Nathan. When you first start out, you should try and pick a personality for your character that is similar to yours because it's going to be easier to play. But ultimately, trying to play a character that is completely opposite of you is like it's my goal, and I still have yet to play a character completely opposite of myself because
That's why I've never played a lawful good character.
right.
I tried to play a cleric, and it was the most boring thing I've ever done. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to do. I mean,
But I have a monk that's drunk all the time, and that's
that's easy.
pretty easy to play.
Sounds
I
like my
wanna try to
barbarian.
play
He's
that.
driven by alcohol and violence.
See, now I don't think I could play a character like that without a lot of like effort. Like, that would be really hard for me to do.
Well, I think so. For me personally, there's both a good side to me and a bad side to me, right? So I can play really not mean, but maybe snarky. So maybe more of a rage than just kind of a grump. But I think it would be hard for me to play really light but not so hard that I wouldn't do it. I would probably try to balance it a little bit. So I don't know. I'm playing it out of character a little bit, maybe when I'm a little more advanced at the game. But I think it might be interesting just to personally explore parts of my personality that I can't in real life.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun of being able to play these characters in general, is being able to be somebody you can't be or wouldn't be in normal life. But that's after you've learned how to play the game in
Right.
general.
Do I break into song when I'm hanging out with my friends? No, I don't do that.
Oh, but you love doing that.
I do. It's
Yeah.
fun.
And that last
but
song was hilarious.
yeah.
Okay, so there's a question here. So when I create a character, is it more important to have a background first and then make a character, or create a class and then a background?
I would say neither and both at the same time. It just depends on what you want to do. If you're thinking that, I want to play a ranger, obviously you're going to take the class first and then fill in background, race, all that. If you want to play a character that was a criminal or something of that nature, then you're going to, that would probably be a rogue. But at the same time, it could also be a ranger.
Or it could even
a paladin. It could be
or it could
anything.
even go a fighter. I mean,
Exactly. It could
you could have been
literally
a
be
barroom
anything.
brawler.
Yep.
So basically you're saying that it depends. I mean, if you've already got a great idea, like a backstory in your mind, then you go with that and then find your class that would go along with it. But
Yeah.
if you're like, I really, really want to play a fighter this time, or I really, really want, then go with that and then work your way around.
Yeah.
As a whole, my
Makes sense.
favorite way to do it is come up with this backstory that I absolutely love, and then I thumb through the book and find the class that fits it best.
Yeah. For me, I agree, Nathan. I would rather come up with a
It's
really good
Dustin,
story.
by the way.
Dustin, I'm sorry. Come up with the background, the story of the character, and then find what fits it as far as class, background, race.
Yeah.
But you could do either.
Yeah, I've done where I found the class first, where there was just a class that I really wanted to play and made a killer backstory for it. I played in Pathfinder. I used to play a ton of Pathfinder for 5th edition. I played a Magus, which is so much fun. You're a battle mage, basically, with a sentient sword. And then I also played an Alchemist. Both of them are just insane amounts of fun. You just have to figure out which one works for you.
Right. And see, I'm the exact opposite. I take the class first, then I decide background and race at the same time. Like, if I think of a background first, I'll think of what race fits it. If I think of a race, I'm going to think of what background fits it.
Yeah, and I've done that as well. I actually did something kind of like that with my bard that I did, and he wasn't a traditional bard. I came up with this really awesome background to him. He was this from a noble family, enjoyed sitting in the dungeons, torturing and interrogating prisoners.
Yeah.
Happened to be that a bard fit that personality best, just because their skill set and everything else, well, with their charisma and interaction with people and everything and all that stuff. So he wasn't a
I don't know,
singing
my
bard.
Right. My next character, I really wanted to do a Minotaur, just because I wanted to do a Minotaur. So I don't have a background for this character just yet. But so I sort of approached it from, let me fill out the sheet first, and then I'll figure out the background. But I can see how doing it the other way would be much more authentic. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like, come next week with a new character, and I was like, oh crap! Well, then I have to fill out the sheet, right?
Yeah, if you're if you're going into a group that have already been established, I usually will go, well, what's already being played? Let me play something different. And then I will start from the class.
Right.
But otherwise, I try and come up with a story for the character first.
And I going off that, I have noticed that a lot of people will shy away from playing a class that someone else is already playing. Not necessarily. Two rogues are not necessarily going to be the same. Two paladins, same thing. So I would suggest further going off of the roles that you have. You have somebody who can be up front taking the damage, like a barbarian, paladin, cleric, something like that. You have the long range glass cannons, like your sorcerers, wizards, stuff like that. And then you have your support, so clerics, druids, bards.
Yeah, there's nothing saying that you can't have two rogues or two fighters or two wizards or in the same group.
Exactly.
But I try and usually mix it up.
Right. Like I
but
said
it
the other day, you can have a group of 5 rogues or 5 clerics, and every one of them has a different function. Every one of them acts differently. You have a healer, you have a tank, you have your heavy damage dealer, you have your spellcaster. Every one of them can be different while still being clerics.
Yeah.
Some classes lend themselves to that better than others too.
True. Like rangers, even rangers to an extent.
Yeah, barbarians are pretty one note when it comes to that.
True.
Yeah.
Get
But
angry,
even-
eat things.
Yeah. Even
Get
still,
angry.
they have you have your big damage dealers such as the shit, I can't think of it. The ones that frenzy berserker. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And then you have your
other ones
totemic
that are
ones, which are
totems.
more support.
Yep,
And that's
exactly.
actually the one that I play in Campaign with some friends.
Right.
But at the same token, they do heavy damage. You hit something with a great axe and you crit on it and it just explodes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're rolling 3d12 to hit it for damage.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about playing characters that don't get into the fight very much?
Personally, I don't think that I'll ever do it simply because I enjoy the actual process of fighting with my character so much.
What type of character would that be?
Go ahead.
Doc plays a character called is it Samantha?
I don't know.
I'm Samantha.
I'm not sure. He has a character. It's a cleric, complete pacifist.
Oh.
She could be being attacked by a demon, will do absolutely nothing to fight back, but she's there to support and heal herself and other characters.
Oh, so she's purely a healer?
She's a pacifist. She won't fight. She will instantly back down from any challenge. She just will not fight.
Oh, I
that-
couldn't imagine that being fun at all, though.
Yeah.
But that goes into the whole what we were talking about earlier about different personality types too, and how it can bring a very different dynamic to the game.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you don't even have to. It doesn't even have to be a pacifist. It can be a coward. You can make a big giant barbarian that gets so scared at the smallest thing.
Yeah. So what I was getting at was, some characters, if you play that role as your background or your personality that you don't want to get into a fight, it could be fun to play. But I think letting the rest of the players know that that's the type of character. Otherwise, other players, not characters, but players are going to even think, well, why isn't this character getting in a fight? Why isn't it helping us,
Right.
But if you're gonna play that kind of character, I do recommend being good at the social end of things, the interaction, being the face of the group.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But my alchemist that I was playing before, my DM potentially became a father. I don't know. He hasn't told me yet. He's in Korea right now, and as a contractor, and one of the girls he was seeing. But yeah, he disappeared off the face of the earth about 2 months ago. But my alchemist was kind of that way, and he let me do a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. The alchemist takes a potion, they become this big lumbering Hulk. And there's actually a prestige class later you can go that route with, but he let me do it very early on, where when I'm just a normal human walking around, I don't want to interact with anybody. I don't want to get in fights or anything like that. But the Mr. Hyde comes out, and it's a very different story, and I just want to hit things.
Which that would be fun because you're still getting into the the
Right.
thick of things when it happens. I just couldn't imagine never getting into the into the fights or the battles with everybody.
It sounds fun until until he makes you roll for basically sanity checks to see which personality wants to take over,
Yeah,
and you're in a social situation.
that's a lot like one of Tom's characters, D'Amico's.
Yeah. Yeah. But it can be fun too. But yeah, it can be a real pain too.
Because you
And-
fail that roll, and Mr. Hyde comes out, and you're in royal court.
And it's those little character quirks that are a lot of fun for me. Like I intend on making this character in the future. I just have to wait for an opening in one of the games. But a character that doesn't speak common.
I was talking about you earlier.
Yeah.
So it would be fun because it would frustrate everybody, and I think that would be a lot of fun. But at the same time, it opens up a new dynamic where the characters have to roll for wisdom or perception or what have you to try and understand what I'm mimicking or making clicking noises or whatever what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was it you, Dustin, that said that wouldn't it be funny if he was
Like a wizard or a sorcerer that had spent so much time learning new stuff that he's brain dumped common to make room for new stuff.
Right, or
Something that's supposed to be super intelligent but can't interact and speak to anybody.
what I intended was a druid that was basically separated at birth and then was raised by animals or something like that.
I can see that working too.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So
any
my-
character like another druid or a ranger or something like that that could commune with animals would be able to talk to me just fine.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So my advice when Keith had brought that up was just really think about that. Because if I was the DM, I would make sure that you cannot communicate with other people. If that's what you tell me you're going to do, then you cannot communicate with other people. You can point and grunt. So good
Yep.
luck with that. So whenever you come up, and this is my personal opinion, whenever you come up with some quirk that you're thinking about for your character, really, really think it through and try to think about how that's going to affect the rest of the other players too. How annoying is it going to be? How funny is it going to be? How hard is it going to be for you to keep that up with that character? And if you really still want to play it, all right, we'll figure it out.
well, in something like that, couldn't it be where instead of him never being able to communicate with the group, couldn't he click or whatever, make noises, and then they say I was trying to communicate with him, then I would have to roll perception or something like that to see if I could understand him, and then he could actually speak to me for a minute.
Yeah, it would be a perception check,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be a very hard perception check to figure out, especially when you first meet the character.
Right.
So maybe you would do it, roll at a disadvantage until
Right, probably
a while later. Then you can.
Or just set the threshold for a successful roll, like say you have to roll 18 or something like that. It's a pretty high
Okay,
threshold for it.
I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
I think so.
I would really enjoy playing in a party like that. That'd be funny as well.
And it doesn't even have to be someone who can not speak common or not speaking anything at all. It's just
Right.
someone who can only speak Orcish or Infernal or something like that. He just can't speak common. So if there was someone else in the group that could speak the language that they speak, then they could relay information and whatnot.
There's another question for you, Tom, in chat.
How do you rule players who want to blur spell lines, like speak with animal, and anything that actually addresses comprehending natural language? So, if I'm understanding this, if somebody wants to use speak with animal as comprehend language, that would be two different spells. I'm not sure I'm really understanding.
I I think what he's kind of getting at is like when you do commune with animal or whatever the name of the spell is, you're not sitting there having a conversation with them. You can get vague ideas, bits of information, because the creature may not be intelligent enough to actually speak to you.
Well, so like,
Yes.
let's see, speak with animals.
Here, I'll look it up real quick.
Ability to comprehend and verbally communicate with a beast for the duration. So, I mean, my understanding of that is you would be able to verbally communicate with them.
Right. I think there's another spell that is the alternate version of that, like commune with animals or something like that.
So, I mean, I look at the spell and try and figure out, okay, what does the spell mean?
Right. I have it here.
And if it just says that you can, like, for example, I'm not sure what it is, but if you can get the idea of what an animal is thinking, then it's kind of like talking to your 1-year-old or whatever,
Right.
kind of get the gist of what they're wanting.
I had a DM one time explain it like this: that you can talk to them, yes, but doesn't mean they know the words that you do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess you wouldn't have a full conversation with an animal, but
Okay, I get what he's saying.
if you're trying to, where are the orcs going, they could communicate enough to tell you where they went.
Right.
So
something like
basically, the animal wouldn't be saying, oh yeah, the orc came by here last night. No, it would more be saying orc that way.
that. Right.
It would be very basic, right?
So what he's asking is, I think he's saying that some of his players are using a spell like comprehend language and saying, well, oh, that lets me speak to animals, when in reality it shouldn't.
Oh, yeah. If that's
They're
what they're trying
blurring the
to
lines
say,
between those two spells.
yeah, I would say no. You either use the spell speak with animals, or you comprehend languages. Languages being
The actual
Being a spoken language, not grunts and
Yeah.
noises made by animals.
exactly, it says spoken language or written language.
right. And I'm trying to think, like halfling, elf, dwarvish, those languages.
Yeah.
Somebody grunting and pointing and clicking. No, that's not a language. That's somebody making noise.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what they're saying, that they would allow it, and every DM is different. If so, example for this, would I allow it ever? If at first level you have this character who's grunting and clicking, and you have these other characters that are like, what the hell are you trying to say? By we'll just say 10th level, they've been traveling together all that time. They might know this click or that click means he's hungry or whatever. I may give it to them over time that they might learn some very basic communication. But I would say at first, no, they have no clue what that guy's doing.
Right.
That makes perfect sense, actually.
And one of our guys that plays with us in person, he plays a cleric. It's actually a homebrew, but it's basically a wild magic cleric. So he'll try to cast some offensive spell, and the wild magic happens, and he accidentally turns himself blue.
Yeah, that's the wild magic from the sorcerer.
Yeah. He homebrewed it into a cleric.
Yeah,
And he's got these other quirks, like he's a I think it's a narcoleptic.
Yeah.
He'll be running or something and then just fall asleep.
Yeah,
I
mean,
think
you
that's
can.
the biggest thing, though, is having those quirks like that make a character a character.
It depends on the player. Some people like that because it adds into the story really well, but other people like super strong characters because they're more interested in the fighting aspect of it.
True.
Yeah, and I think so one thing I know Doc and I say a lot. Doc says it even more than I do, but never try to, or what does he say? Try not to tell your players no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you can let your players do what they want with their character, great. If it's going to destroy your story, maybe not. But try to let them do what they want. But sometimes people come up with some really off-the-wall stuff that it's really hard to say, yeah, okay. And I always put in the exception of, you're not making a god character. I don't care what you ask, you're not making a god.
The only god character is the DM.
See, but that's what I think of when, like, how you just said, somebody likes, how'd you say it? Some people like a fighter.
Super strong character because they're more interested in the fighting aspect of the story.
Right, and see, whenever I hear that, I always think of somebody trying to create, like, this ultimate dragonborn extreme character that can just whoop everybody's ass, you know what I mean? And could just go in and obliterate everything. Versus actually creating a character
that would come down to the DM just throwing a harder challenge or throwing some kind of handicap on them. Like, say for instance, you had some kind of spellcaster who was that way. The DM can do anything. I would say within reason, but even that is kind of, the DM can do anything. So have them fall under some kind of curse or spell or something of that sort where they can't really speak properly, like their tongue just wants to wag around or something, and they have to roll, say, like a wisdom check or something like that, so they can even form words to cast the spell or something of that nature.
Yeah, or they could be stricken with an amnesiac curse or something like that and brain dump half of everything they know.
Yeah, there's always ways to handicap a character that's God.
Or worst case scenario, you throw a Tarrasque at them and just...
Yeah. Okay, well, I was under the impression when Doc was explaining it before that he didn't allow people to make characters that were like, but super,
right.
The word I'm trying to think of, you know what I mean?
Overpowered.
But that's fine. I mean, if I'm sure there's DMs that let you create all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
But I that's what I was under the impression, and I forget sometimes that Doc and Tom are not the only DMs in the world.
Right.
Those aren't the only rules.
See, when you have super strong characters like that, it's a lot harder to predict how to throw monsters at them because you can throw something that would normally kill a group of 5 players at this level, but since you have overpowered characters, it's like nothing to them. So you have to try and determine what level they are actively fighting at instead of their own.
Yeah.
Right, and that's fine, but how do you balance that out with a whole party? So say you've got some, regular characters, and they've got one person that made this godlike character.
Right.
You know what I mean? How does that work where, you can't...
A good example for that is my group that I started. Doc's character is fully homebrewed. It's a blood hunter Ganassi, so it's like a genie.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me the link to it, and I was like, well, this seems a little overpowered, this might not seem fair to the other players. And so we came up with the idea to give everyone else magical weapons to kind of offset it.
Oh, okay.
But then, on top of that, I didn't really adjust the difficulty of the dungeon, so they just face rolled at all the fights.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or if you have that one player that wants to play that really overpowered character, you tell them no, or you make them roll for their stats or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, is I thought that that was part of making a character, was you weren't supposed to worry about making it an all-powerful character. You were supposed to worry more about making it...
Yeah, that's supposed to be the end goal once you get up there and however many levels you survive.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the goal, not the starting point.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I wasn't sure because I've seen a few people that were making characters that were like, and I'm going to have it be the most badass thing in the whole world, and it's going to just stomp everybody, and it was just kind of like, oh, okay. And that's great, because I love fighting. Trust me, I really, really am enjoying it. But I think there's a lot more to making a character than just, you know.
Hmm. Well, I had a DM that when you made a character, he gave you 85 points to allocate into abilities or into attributes from 0, and they were 1 for 1. Think about it. 85 points is a lot. Your average score, if you put them all in, came out like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So all your characters were super overpowered. But to compensate for that, he made his campaigns just absolutely brutal.
Really.
Yeah.
He had a standing rule. He attempted to kill one player every game. He
Oh,
was
wow.
successful pretty often.
Yeah. I mean, I like it to be challenging, but I certainly don't. My goal is not to kill characters. But there's always a chance if you really mess up. It could go south in a hurry.
Yeah, I think it's just a learning. I mean, because like I said, I'm still really new to this, so I'm not sure what the limits are and how. I haven't had a very broad experience of different DMs. So making a character to me is still sort of what Doc would allow or what Tom would allow. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning, how to build a character that, my brain could, go into the reaches of, whoa, I can make this. I haven't gone there yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to build a character that will fit in any campaign. I've seen groups that are way overpowered, but like you say, they just dump harder and harder stuff on you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just up to the DM to, either let the players know this is the type of character I, need you to build, or just let the characters or the players build whatever they want and build your world around them.
Or
Yeah.
ramp your world up that you already have built to fit them.
Right.
So once again, it comes down to what the DM, is okay with and what he's not okay with it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, Typo, Doc and I how we play. But if you went and played with a different group as a different DM, it's always good to ask the DM what can I do when I build my character? Do you have any limitations? And then they'll tell you, or they should tell you, what they want from a character.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Or what they
I've seen
don't
Drew
want.
talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
and that's important for me to know because I, if I do get to play with somebody else, it'd be important to, remember that there's different rules with different DMs, and I could go further than make a crazier character than I have.
Right. Yeah, like I say, every DM is different, what they expect and what they don't want in their game, and it's always best to ask up front before you spend a bunch of time building a character, and then he goes, "Oh no, you got to change that, this, that, and that," and you're like, "Well, there goes
Right.
my whole character."
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't think we had any more questions that I.
Not yet. I've not seen any.
Nope.
Well, I guess this would be a good time to wrap it up then.
Alrighty.
All right.
I appreciate you guys coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for letting me in once I came here late.
Not a problem.
No
I
problem.
was excited you were doing it. I was like, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is good. I learned a lot. I just sort of jumped in with both feet and didn't really think much about like the other players or like the composition of the party. Just kind of went with it. So this was interesting.
And I
Yeah.
say there's nothing wrong with doing it that way either, but I like to stir parties up, so.
Yeah, I learned quite a bit, just from this Q&A alone, which is funny. You don't think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead and finish. I thought you were finished.
I was saying, you don't think about like all the added things that you're gonna learn just from listening to people talk about their games that they're playing, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I like this method, the way we did it tonight, a lot better than the way we have been doing the Q&A for the past few weeks. It's a lot more
Focused
focused, but it
on
just
target.
yeah, you get a lot more done.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't think that's really working too well because
Yeah.
it was not focused. But so I'm going forward. I'm gonna do this every Thursday. I have a few people on and just through Twitch and take questions. Try and pick like something, like maybe next week talk class. Make that the main focus. But of course, it'll always get.
It'll people
Right.
ask questions and yeah.
But
But at least it stayed within a general concept this time, which was nice.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say just have everybody come up with a some kind of question that's going to lead to an in-depth conversation.
yeah. Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. Are you done?
Yeah, we're just wrapping up right now.
Okay.
Did you
Thanks,
interrupt us with a burp?
He does that.
That's
That's what I
awesome.
thought.
I just wanted to say thanks to the people that come and hang out with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, if you think of anything through the week, write it down, ask us. Can send the question through Bros and Dragons.
Yep, or you can message Keith, either
Yeah. Or me.
Yep, or Tom, or Doc.
Don't message me because I don't know anything.
I was gonna say me either.
You
Yeah.
can message me. I'm Dustin. I'll answer best I can. If I can't, I'll point you to Tom or Doc or somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. But I appreciate you guys. You guys got any shameless plugs? Anything going on this week?
Just the Range 15 East Coast premiere. That's going to take up all my time this week. Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Yep. I still have
Right.
to wait till the middle of next month.
Oh, and Tommy, our ladies, if there's anybody that is of the female persuasion that wants to get involved with D&D, go ahead and give Tommy a message, because I'm sure you'll be able to find her easier than me. And she'll add you on into the group.
Yep. If you have an innie not an outie, you can join.
Next week, Tuesday, if all goes well, I should be DMing, and anybody that wants to watch can tune in here.
Ooh, awesome.
Should get started around 6:30, 7 o'clock Central Time.
Awesome.
I will be listening in.
Cool. Again, I appreciate you guys coming on. Tommy, Typo, Keith, and Dustin. All right, we're out of here. Doc, close us up.
This has been a Bros and Dragons